knit our decreases down to where it's no longer comfortable to be on this one needle anymore, because as the circumference gets smaller and smaller, we're having to pull the stitches around the needle tighter and tighter. So what I'm about to do seemed very, very scary to me for quite some time, but once I actually did it, it wasn't that scary, and it really opened up a lot more items that I could knit, because I could knit a circle smaller than my needles were long. I got out my smaller needle that we did the ribbing with. Ideally, we would have the same size needle, but if it's just a size or so different, it's not going to make a difference in your final product. You won't be able to tell. And I'm all about using what I've got. All right, so the last row I did was a row of knit all the way around even. And the row before that was knit two together. So I'm ready to knit one, knit two together. We're going to do the first half of the stitches on the smaller needle. So I'm going to go ahead and count how many do I have. 2, 4, 30. So I have 30. So I'm going to want about 15 in ending up on this needle. Well, it's going to be a few less actually, because I'm going to knit two together on some of these. It doesn't have to be exactly half. I just want about half to end up on this needle and about half to end up on this needle. So this I'm not going to use. This is the working needle. Sorry, let's make this a little more. This is the working needle that if I was to keep going, I would be moving the stitches over here, but I'm going to put that down. New working needle is the smaller one from earlier. So knit one. I want to make sure that my working yarn is not coming under the previous working needle. I'm going to go over it so I won't have a big gap there. It's a little fiddly. So what I did was I stuck it into the knitting back here so it would stay put, stay out of my way. All right, so we're gonna knit one, knit two together. That's 3 of my 15. Knit one, knit two together. There's 6. Knit one, knit two together. 9. Twelve. 15. All right, pull this through and show you where we're at here. So now I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. This is the smaller needle. I'll flip it around. Here we have our bigger needle. And I will have 10 over here once I knit one, knit two together around. But you can see how this is going to, and we're going to work on both sets for the rest of this project. It looks scary. It is not scary. You're going around in circles just as we did before, but we're on 2 different sets of needles because it's too small of a circumference now to work on 1 set of needles. So I'm going to work on my bigger set now. Again, let's make sure we bring our yarn over so that these guys are not in the way. And we're going to continue with knit 1, knit 2 together. These guys might flop, wail, flop, cry, ignore them. Knit 1, knit 2 together. See how I put them under my 2 fingers back here, kind of holds them back. The actual act of knitting and moving around, you will only ever be using 2 needles, which you've done before. It looks scary because there's 4 needles on my project right now, and oh my goodness, you're knitting with 4 needles at once. No, you're only ever working with 2. Once we got to the end of the row, I'm going to turn over again. We're back to the beginning of the row, and we're ready to knit a row even using both smaller needles. One thing when we are early on in our knitting journey, so that we're sure we don't accidentally grab one of these back guys, I like to grab both needles. This is kind of silly, but it helps. Grab both needles, say these are the 2 I'm going to use, and I'm going to look on here and it's going to tell me the size of the needle. Both are the smaller size. That's how I know I have the right ones that go together. Gonna make sure that our yarn is on top of this back needle. Again, we could have done this last time instead of grabbing it with my fingers. Either works. You're gonna find what works best for you. And one thing too is when I'm starting on I'm leaving these needles starting over here. When I start my knit stitch, I'm going to give just a little bit of a tug there as I'm bringing it through, so we don't have too much gap here in our finished product. So knit a row. We're just going to knit all the way around. Drop these needles, don't need them right now. All right, got these guys. They're both the same size. final row, we're going to knit 2 together all the way around. So no knitting one lonely stitch anymore. We've all got buddies. Knit 2 together, knit 2 together. This guy is whining and crying and wants to be included. Not yet. Done with those guys. Okay, now is your time to shine, my friend. Still knitting 2 together. Here we go. I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 stitches left total. You may have 8, you may have 11. That's okay, because we may have started with different numbers of stitches. We want about 10, give or take 3 or so. You're gonna hear me say about this, about that. You're gonna want about 8 inches before we start the decreases. That's because knitting is really very forgiving. It's stretchy. It's, you know, if you have a few more, a few less, it's not going to be noticeable when you look at it and not really noticeable when you wear it either. So that's why you hear me say that a lot. There are, of course, patterns and projects where the number is very important because you're doing different things that you need it to be. But in our first few projects, it's not going to be really important. So, all right, in the next video, I will show you how to finish. We are almost there.